This is a story of words and wisdom and a whisper of magic. And just like stories shared by firelight, it's meant to surround you warmly, envelop you in its embrace, and let you drift away on a sea of sound. So come in close now. Let the day roll off your shoulders. Feel its weight melt down your spine, soft and slow. Like warm honey poured over stone. You don't need to do anything anymore. No decisions, no thoughts to catch, no plans to hold. Just you, your breath, and the soft hush of evening settling in. Let your body soften now. Feel the gentle gravity of the bed beneath you, cradling your back, supporting every curve, every quiet part of you that longed for rest. Come home to yourself. Deepen your inhale, reaching all the way down to your belly. Imagine roots unfurling beneath you, anchoring you to the earth. Now exhale, letting go of any lingering tension. Picture it melting away into the comforting depths of the earth, being held, being nurtured. Close your eyes now, and let your eyelids flutter, close like the wings of a hummingbird, resting after a day of sweet nectar sipping. Drift further into relaxation, releasing any worries or stresses with each exhale. And as you breathe in, invite peace and tranquility to wash over you. Allow them to linger with every breath, filling you completely until you feel enveloped in their calming embrace. Now, imagine you're wrapped in a plush bathrobe, cocooning you in warmth and comfort. Imagine yourself surrounded by plush pillows and blankets, cradling your body in softness and support. Surrender to the cozy embrace and let it envelop you completely. Imagine the gentle flicker of a nearby fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The soft crackle of burning logs fills the air, mingling with the faint scent of wood smoke and vanilla. Sink deeper into relaxation, allowing the warmth of the imaginary fire to soothe and comfort you. Here in the amber glow of lamplight, we'll share tales that weave magic and memories together. Stories whispered like ancient prayers, designed to rock you gently into slumber. So stay here with me. Let the words wrap around you like a warm blanket. Rest your thoughts upon the cushions of comfort, and let this space be your sanctuary until dreams take flight. And now, let us begin our tale inside the hush of a stone scriptorium, hidden deep within the walls of an old abbey, where ivy drips down windowsills like green lace, and the sun only visits in slanted shafts through stained glass. The room is cool and quiet, lit by a single beeswax candle. Its flame dances low, flickering gold against time-worn walls. Everything here smells faintly of wood smoke, linen, and lavender rubbed between thumb and palm. And at the heart of this silence sits a young novice named Celestia. She is 17 winters old, though she carries her name like something older, as if she were born with a quill in her hand and ink in her veins. Celestia sits on a wooden stool worn smooth by hours of patient work. Her feet rest flat on the flagstone floor, and beside her is a small table, polished with oil and prayer, where pigment stones glisten under the candleless glow. Her robe is simple, soft, gray wool. Its sleeves are rolled back just enough to reveal slim wrists, dusted with gold flecks, and a gentle blush of rose powder. She leans over a sheet of vellum-thick, creamy parchment, made from calf skin, its surface stretched and ready, blank, but not for long. Beside her lies a small mortar. Inside, a handful of lapis lazuli stones, crushed painstakingly to powder, each grain catching the candlelight like fragments of deep ocean sky. Lapis more precious than gold in the Middle Ages, traded from distant lands, carried in the pouches of spice caravans, ground into pigment only for the holiest images. The robes of the Virgin, the wings of heaven's host. Celestia touches the dust with the tip of her finger, and then, with a breath as light as dawn, she mixes it into egg yolk and rose water, slowly, tenderly, stirring until the blue deepens into something otherworldly, a color that does not belong entirely to this world. Next, she adds crushed rose petals dried in the abbey's garden, behind the hedgerows, where bees sleep curled in blossoms. The petals crumble softly, falling into the bowl with a rustle no louder than a whisper on silk. Their scent rises faintly, sweet, floral, like the perfume of dreams, remembered in morning light. And as she stirs, a breeze brushes through the high arched window, cool and slow-moving like breath through cathedral stone. It lifts the edge of her parchment, then falls away again, leaving stillness behind. All around her, the abbey slumbers. Beyond thick stone walls, only the distant call of a nightjar stirs the air. And now and then, the soft snap of embers in the scriptorium hearth. She dips her quill. Just once. The nib barely touches the rim of her pigment well, blue and rose and yolk, glowing like twilight. Then, she begins. The tip of the quill meets vellum with the gentlest sigh. Scratch. Each stroke is deliberate, each letter slow and reverent. This is not ordinary writing. Celestria is illuminating sacred verse, not simply with text, but with prayer and patience and pigment. Tonight, she copies the Canticle of Moonlight, a hymn sung only on the rarest of nights, when stars align above the cloister garden and the moon hangs low like a silver bell. She hums it softly under her breath. O Luna, Madre silent. O moon, silent mother. The tune is old, older than the abbey, passed from mouth to mouth, like a lullaby, wrapped in lavender cloth. The letters she forms, curve like branches in a spring wind. She draws vines around the border, then tucks little creatures within the leaves. A rabbit curled in sleep, a wren mid-flight, a fox with its tail curled around a tiny loop. These details will not be noticed at first glance, but they are her quiet gift to the page, like dreams sewn into seams, waiting to be discovered. Outside, the wind stirs again. A few dry leaves tumble across the cloister path, whispering over stone like slippers on marble. The stars blink overhead, and the moon, veiled in thin clouds, watches silently through narrow panes of stained glass. Celestria does not look up. She is part of the silence now, a breathing rhythm between candle and parchment, a hush drawn in gold and lapis and love. Before we depart this peaceful place, let us gather our senses back to us. Slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, feeling the pleasant tingle of movement after moments of stillness. Take a deep breath in, noticing the air filling your lungs and the gentle rise of your chest. Exhale slowly, releasing any tension you might be holding. Now, turn your head from side to side, feeling the release of tension in your neck and shoulders. As you inhale, lift your arms overhead, stretching gently. And as you exhale, let your arms fall back down to your sides, relaxing into the comforting weight of your blanket. As you slowly open your eyes, you'll find that this cozy nest is still yours to enjoy. But now there's a gentle smile gracing your lips, and a deep sense of calm envelops your heart. The world outside may wait, but for now, you carry the peace of this sanctuary within you. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. May the quiet magic of our story linger around you like the scent of lavender and wood. Until next time, dear listener, may your days be filled with the colors of creativity, and your nights with dreams as deep and comforting as twilight. And always remember, the quietest corners often hold the brightest magic. The bell beside her has burned low, its wax pooling gently at the base, catching tiny flecks of dust like stardust and honey. Celestria lifts her hand just above the page, not yet to write, just to feel. She hovers there, fingers outstretched, like a blessing suspended in the air. And for a moment, all is still. No wind, no footfalls, only the quiet breath of the abbey, slow and ancient, as if the stone itself remembers every story written here. Celestria dips her quill again into a new well. This one holds liquid gold, real gold, powdered fine and mixed with gum arabic, prepared with such care that even the candlelight seems shy beside it. She turns the page slightly, angles it toward the flickering light, and then, with the softest pressure, she begins to gild the luminata, the first letter of the verse. The letter L, tall, elegant, and winding, emerges like a sunbeam over old hills. She paints within its curve tiny stars, each one no bigger than a freckle. At its base, a sleeping child wrapped in a blanket of ivy. These aren't decorations, they're stories inside stories. Celestia believes that every illuminated page should be read with the heart, not just the eyes. That between the words, in the curls of vine and gold, are places the soul can rest. Outside the scriptorium, a gentle rain begins to fall. Not loudly, just a soft, whispering kind that taps against stained glass windows with a rhythm like a lullaby. Tap, tip, tap, tip, tap, hush. The sound is so light, it seems made to lull the parchment itself to sleep. Celestia doesn't pause her work, but inside, she smiles. Rain was always her favorite scriptorium weather. It blurred the edges of the world outside. It made everything feel like it was floating, like the abbey itself might lift into the mist and drift off with the clouds. She presses the next line of ink across the page. Hic cantet nux, Lucium, serenum, and the night sings serene light. She closes her eyes a moment and lets the echo of the phrase rest against her ribs, like a warm bowl cradled in her hands. Behind her, a fire cracks softly in the hearth. Someone, an older monk perhaps, must have added a log, unseen. The scent of oak smoke mingles now with rose and ink, and it is all so still. In medieval times, the monks and nuns who illuminated texts believed that their work was a form of devotion beyond words. They would spend weeks gilding a single page, sometimes an entire lifetime on one book. Not for praise, not even to be read by many, but to bring beauty to a soul in silence. They believed beauty itself was a kind of prayer, a way to speak to God when language ran out. Celestia doesn't think in such grand terms, but somewhere in her quiet heart, she understands. Each letter she paints feels like a note in a lullaby. Each flourish, a sigh of peace offered to the dark. The rain continues its quiet rhythm, and she begins to hum again, softly, almost without sound. Just breath on a tune, just memory in melody. A song she does not remember learning, but one she feels she's always known. The words are ancient, older than the abbey walls, but the sound of them is comfort, like linen sheets tucked at the feet, like the warm weight of a cat on the window ledge. Let your mind drift there now, to the soft firelight, to the scent of ink and wood smoke, to the young novice painting light into words. No rush, no need to follow every detail, just float in the atmosphere. Let your breath rise and fall with the rain. Let the story carry you, like a small boat down a gentle stream. At the edge of the scriptorium, near a shelf lined with jars of pigment and pressed flowers, a small brass bell hangs from a velvet ribbon. It chimes only once each night, just before matins. When the moon is high and the candles grow tired, the bell sounds now. A soft tone, high and delicate, like wind passing through glass. Celestia hears it, but does not hurry. She finishes her line, caps her pigment, and carefully lays her quill upon a linen cloth. Then she rises, stretching slowly, letting the long work of stillness release from her limbs. She walks across the room to a tiny table where a clay bowl waits and dips her fingers into cool water scented faintly with rosemary and thyme. Washes the gold from her hands, watches it swirl like sunlight in the basin. There is something deeply peaceful in this end-of-night ritual, as if she's releasing her work into the silence, letting it settle like stardust returning to the sky. She dries her hands on a woven towel, extinguishes the candle, and pauses for a breath. One final glance at her page, and then she slips out of the scriptorium, leaving only the scent of roses and pigment behind. Outside, the rain falls softer now, and the moon peers through clouds like a half-lidded eye. Inside, the room returns to stillness, but the page she left behind, the illuminated verse, kissed by lapis and gold, it glows faintly in the dark, as if it remembers her hands and is not ready to fall asleep just yet. Have you ever found yourself drawn to the quiet moments in life? The ones where the world fades away and there's just you, your thoughts, and a sense of deep inner peace. If you're an introvert or highly sensitive, you might relate to this feeling. These moments of stillness can be grounding, allowing us to reconnect with ourselves and our. Yet in a society that often values loud achievements and constant busyness, these moments can feel rare and precious. But what if we could find ways to weave more of these quiet moments into our everyday lives? What if instead of waiting for the world to become silent, we could create pockets of peace amidst the chaos? Cultivating these inner sanctuaries becomes more important. It is the way to honor our introverted nature and thrive in a world that was undesigned for us. It's about setting boundaries, practicing self-care, and finding joy in the simple act of being. Finding these moments allows us to recharge, to reflect, and to return to the world feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. It's a reminder that in the quietest moments, there's a strength and beauty that can often be overlooked. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the scribe. If you'd like to explore more stories like this, please consider supporting us. Your support means we can keep bringing these stories to life and sharing them with others. Also, don't forget to share your thoughts. We love hearing your comments, and they really help us in reaching more introverts like you. Thank you for joining me today. May your cup always be full and your quiet moments cherished. Hello, my loves. Here is another installment in our Candlelit Tales series. I hope you've already subscribed so you don't miss any of these readings. In the accompanying podcast episode, I will read this story, so please check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, I have some exciting news to share with you at the end of this video, so stick around. Now, outside, the abbey sleeps beneath the silver hush of rain. The cloisters are still, their stone paths damp with starlit water. Ivy trembles lightly in the breeze, brushing against arched windows, as if to say, I am here, I am growing, I am listening to. And far above, the bell tower watches, a silent sentinel, worn by time, wrapped in moss, softened by centuries of wind. Inside the scriptorium, all is quiet again, but something of Celestria lingers. A trace of her hum, a warmth left in the wood where her hands rested. The faint perfume of crushed rose petals and parchment, and the page she worked on. It still lies open, still glowing gently, even in darkness, as if the gold remembers how it was brushed. Not hastily, but reverently, not as ornament, but as offering. There is something sacred in this room, not in the grand, thundering sense of cathedral halls or incense and choir, but in the smaller way, the whispering way. The kind of sacred you feel when no one's looking, the kind that settles behind your ribs when you hear a story and know it was meant for you. Beyond the scriptorium, Celestria walks slowly through the cloister walk, hood pulled up, fingers trailing along cold, wet stone. The rain mists around her like breath from the sky. Each droplet seems to pause before falling, as if reluctant to disturb the quiet. She crosses the herb garden, where rows of rosemary and chamomile nod in the dark, and slips through a low wooden door into a dormitory. Other novices sleep soundly in their narrow beds, faces turned to the wall or curled beneath blankets. A few soft snores rise and fall like ocean waves against distant cliffs. Celestria tiptoes to a cot, smooths the woolen coverlet, and slides beneath its weight. The bed creaks faintly, not as complaint, but as greeting. She lies still, eyes open, then slowly close. One arm tucked beneath her cheek, a smile playing at the corner of her lips, as if she's still writing lines in her mind, letters shaped from candlelight and lullaby. And now, as she drifts, let us drift with her. Let us move gently through the hallways of the abbey, where centuries have folded in silence. Each corridor lined with flickering each archway holding stories older than any living soul. You may hear distant footsteps in your mind, soft, slippered, slow, like the abbey itself is walking through your dreams. Or perhaps you see the garden from above, a labyrinth of thyme and lavender, glistening with rain. Each plant once tended by quiet hands like hands that believed the shaping of a garden was also a form of prayer. In one corner of the garden lies a hidden bench, carved of you, overgrown with moss, a place forgotten by many, remembered by few. Celestia often comes here, and as we rest with her in this dream, let us sit here to feel the stone cool beneath you. Feel the mist on your skin. Feel the breath of the earth exhaling slowly. All is safe here. All is soft. You may notice how the rain doesn't fall on you in this place. It falls around you like a curtain of stars descending in slow motion. And from the earth, the faintest scent rises. Fresh soil, wet petals, the mineral temps of rain on rock. It is grounding, anchoring, as if the whole world is tucking you in, far away. The abbey bell tolls. Once, a single velvet note. It does not wake you. It does not pull you upward. It rocks you slightly, like a lullaby hummed on a mother's breath. Time here is not measured by clocks. It is measured in candle drips, in heartbeats, in pages turned slowly under patient hands. Even the stars seem to move more gently here, as if mindful not to stir your thoughts too quickly. Let your mind stretch now, like silk unraveling, like a scroll being unrolled beneath moonlight. You are not thinking now. You are floating inside a story written in rose and lapis, and within the dream, she dreams she is flying, not with wings, but with letters. Each letter she painted becomes a stepping stone, suspended in sky, guiding her softly upward. She walks across them one by one, the blue of the lapis glowing beneath her feet, the gold swirling like music in the dark. She does not rush. There is no hurry in this dream. Each step is a breath. Each breath is a note in the hymn she once hummed. O Luna Madre, silent, et cantet nox luciums. She reaches a ledge of pure parchment and rests there, watching stars spell stories across the heavens. All around her, the alphabet hums, the ink glows, and sleep gathers like velvet across her shoulders. She closes her eyes and sinks even deeper. And so do you, dear listener. So do you. There is nowhere to go, nothing to be. Only this moment, this breath, this gentle hush. Let go. Let yourself fall into the golden quiet of the scriptorium, into rose-colored dreams written by candlelight. You are safe here. You are held, and the story has only just begun. I hope you enjoyed this installment in our Candlelit Tales series. As promised, I have an exciting announcement to share with you. As some of you may know, I have been working on an illustrated novella for the past year or so. And I am happy to share with you that it will be published by a fantastic independent press in April 2024. It will be available in hardcover and paperback editions, and I have designed all of the interior illustrations as well as the cover art for the book. I'll be sharing more about the book, the characters, and the world in which they live over the next few months. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates. Thank you again for joining me today and for all of your support over the years. I wish you sweet dreams. Until next time. Night has fallen over the abbey. The late afternoon fire is just embers now. Only sparks rise up to greet the coming dark. The day's work is done, but the scriptorium is hushed, not empty. Sister Celestia sits at her desk. Her quill rests on the vellum, poised as though ready to dip into the waiting ink. Yet she does not right now. She looks out at the cloisters, and how the dying light paints the stone columns gold, how the fountain murmurs its nightly song, how the shadows lengthen and shift, stretching and shrinking, always in motion, never still. She has worked for hours, days even, on her illumination. So much patience, so much precision have been required. Each petal, each stem, each curve of vine must be coaxed from the page, demanding time and attention, and she has given it freely. For this image that grows beneath her quill is no mere decoration. It is an integral part of the psalm it accompanies, guiding the reader's eyes and heart toward the words. But now, With the daylight fading and the chill of evening settling around her, her hand aches, her eye is blurred, and her mind wanders, as it sometimes does, toward the night sky. Oh, how she misses the stars. Back in Troa, the city lights had dimmed them to a whisper. Here, in this haven of green, they blaze in a vast expanse above her head. And she remembers standing in the garden with the novice, Sister Agnes, pointing out constellations, laughing at their silly shapes, tracing lines between the bright pinpricks of light. How long ago was that? A heartbeat, an eternity. She cannot tell. Only that tonight, she feels their absence keenly. A rustle in the corner, the sigh of the wind, the scurry of a mouse, startles her from her reverie. With a gentle smile, she sets aside her quill. Work can wait until morning. It will still be there, patiently waiting, just as the sky will wait for sunrise. She rises, stiff from hours of stillness, and crosses the room. She wants the solace of the cloisters, the fountain's murmur, the fragrance of damp earth and growing things. As she steps outside, a fat raindrop lands on her nose. She laughs, surprised, but not displeased. Soon, the trickle becomes a patter, then a steady drumming on the stones. The sky weeps, she thinks, and feels a kindred ache deep within her own chest. Oh, to weep alongside the heavens, to abandon herself to the deluge and let the tears fall. It would feel good, cleansing, freeing, but her vows forbid it. Nuns do not weep, they do not laugh, they do not speak unless spoken to. They certainly do not dance, and most especially, they do not love. She wanders into the maze of cloisters. Petals gather at her feet. A leaf brushes her arm, its back slick with moisture. The fountain's song swells in her ears, mingling with the rhythm of the rain. Her habit clings to her now, heavy with water. Her sandals are useless in the deluge, but she cares nothing for that. She walks on, deeper into the labyrinth, letting the rhythm of the elements lull her toward peace. Suddenly, a sliver of moonlight pierces the clouds, illuminating a pool of water at the foot of the cloisters. In its depths, Celestria sees a pale reflection of herself, a ghost outlined against the luminous background. It startles her, not because she sees herself as a frightening apparition, but because for a fleeting instant, she glimpses something else, something that was not hers, yet seems to be. If she could reach that image, touch it, claim it as her own, then perhaps she would finally be whole. Who is this vision? Who is this stranger who gazes back at her? Enigmatic, serene, entirely captivating. What does it mean for Celestria to yearn for what she cannot define? Is it longing for home, for family, or is it something more dangerous, something the Abbey was built to keep her away from? Love. She recoils, as if burned. The rain drums louder now. The wind sighs through the cloisters, weaving a dirge through the leaves. Lightning flashes, followed by a clap of thunder that echoes across the hills. And in that instant, Celestria knows what she must do. Hastily, she turns back toward the scriptorium, her pace quickening, her heart thudding in her chest like a captive bird. Inside, the lamp is still alight, casting dancing shadows on the wall. Her unfinished illumination glows faintly on the desk, beckoning her return. But she does not go there. Instead, she moves to the far wall, where a small, unadorned table holds nothing but a wooden cross and a worn missal. Kneeling before it, she closes her eyes and prays, begs, even, for strength. When she opens them again, a newfound determination shines in their depths. She dips her quill into the ink bottle, her hand steady, despite the tremors that run through her frame. The rain continues, its relentless rhythm, but within the scriptorium, a new sound arises, the scratching of quill on vellum, fainter than a whisper, but persistent. Slowly, painstakingly, she begins to write, committing her thoughts, her fears, her hopes to the page. The words form a shield, a sword, a lifeline to sanity. Outside, the storm rages, but within the scriptorium, a transformation occurs. The presence that had haunted her dreams The specter that beckoned from the pool of water finds voice in the script. As she writes, the room expands, embracing not just the words and images of the page, but Celestria herself, welcoming her, accepting her. She writes and writes, until the first hints of dawn appear, painting streaks of rose and gold across the eastern sky. Then, and only then, does she stop. Her hand cramps painfully. Her inkwell is nearly dry, and the page before her is a testament to the turmoil that rages within her soul. What has she written? Words of devotion, yes, but also prayers for release, pleas for understanding, and woven throughout a single, desperate question. Who am I? It hangs in the center of the page, a stark black silhouette against the burgeoning light, demanding an answer. As if in response, the morning light spills in through the window, touching the words with gold. And for the first time, Celestria sees not a sentence, but a sigil, a symbol of her struggle, a key to her understanding. Who am I? Well, who is any of us? The novice who died, the abbess who rules, the gardener who tends the herbs, the baker who kneads the bread, all are vessels of the divine. Imperfect, fragile, and whole, all are seeking, searching, yearning for something beyond themselves. And in that recognition, Celestria feels the burden lift, not because she has an answer, but because she understands she need not have one. The journey itself is the illumination. The very act of seeking draws her closer to the truth of who she is, to the purpose that brought her to this secluded abbey, and to the potential that lies dormant within her soul. Now, with the dawn chorus rising outside and the scent of Dookie's petals drifting in through the open window, Celestria knows what she must do next. She rises, her joints stiff from kneeling, her spirit refreshed. She takes a deep breath, inhaling the promise of a new day. Then, with a newfound lightness in her step, she returns to her desk and picks up her quill. The page waits, the ink is fresh, and the light streams in, painting the path ahead with hope. She dips her quill into the ink and writes, not a psalm this time, but a letter. Her letter, the one that will take her words beyond the abbey walls, carrying her voice to ears that await her message. With each stroke, she pours in the essence of her experience, the struggle, the doubt, the dawning realization, and the unwavering devotion that sustains her. As she writes, the claustrophobic confines of the scriptorium expand, embracing not just the vellum and ink, but Celestria herself, welcoming her, accepting her. The rain has stopped, the clouds have parted, and the sun climbs higher in the sky. Light floods the scriptorium, touching the words with gold. And in the heart of those words, in the core of the letter, Celestria discovers something she did not know she possessed. A wellspring of strength, a depth of understanding, and a breadth of acceptance that encompasses not only her own journey, but the myriad paths of every soul seeking solace and light. As she finishes writing, sealing the letter with a final flourish, she knows that her journey is far from over. There will be more struggles, more doubts, more moments when the weight of her existence threatens to crush her. But now she also knows that within her lies a resilience forged in the fires of adversity, a wisdom born of solitude, and a capacity for love that transcends boundaries and conquers all. Have you ever felt so alone that even silence felt empty? As if the hush of things wasn't enough, as if the quiet wasn't full enough to drown out the echoes in your own skull. In those moments, all we want is to hear something, anything. A chirp, a sigh, even a sound that makes no sense at all. Any sound at all to convince us we are not alone. Hi everyone, today we have a very special episode to share with you. Hi everyone, today we have a very special episode to share with you. For years, many of our listeners have been asking us to make an episode about solitude. We hesitated because the feeling of loneliness is so complex. And in our experience, sometimes the best way to sit with difficult feelings is in companionable silence. But after much thought and consideration, we realized we wanted to attempt an episode on loneliness. Because, as hard as it is to experience, it is also true that loneliness is part of what makes us human. We are social creatures, wired to connect and to belong. So if that's not possible, we can feel utterly lost. But we hope today's episode, which we've titled Dream Garden, can help anyone who is experiencing isolation right now. And now let's begin. Our first listener is writing to us from Canada. Her prompt is, I am always trying to find new ways to improve my mental health. However, sometimes I don't know where to start. I guess I'm hoping for a guide. Welcome to the Dream Garden. It is very quiet now, but not silent. No, this quiet is full of meaning, full of whispers the soul can understand. Even when the mind is resting, a leaf falls nearby, its edge dipped in gold, its shape curled like a letter C. It lands without a sound, and then vanishes into soft moss. Celestia smiles, though she does not know why. She feels no need to understand this place. She only knows she belongs in it. Above her, the sky is unlike any she's known. It is a deep ink blue, not flat, not far, but textured, alive. It looks like parchment, stretched wide, and upon it, stars are painted, some with silver, others in curling vines of lapis and pearl. Occasionally, one star moves, not like a shooting star, but like a drop of ink, rolling gently across vellum, guided by an unseen quill. Celestia wonders, who writes this sky? Is it the monks and nuns, still working in their quiet rooms? Is it the same hands that shape the garden? Or could it be that every illuminated letter ever written has floated here, joined together into this great celestial scroll? A soft thought, a quiet one, and it drifts through her, leaving behind only peace. Now she begins to walk again, along a path lined with quills. Yes, quills, they grow here, like reeds. Their tips shimmer with pigment. One is dipped in gold, another in lapis, another in crushed pearl. When she brushes past them, they hum, a different note for each. The tones blend gently together, becoming a chord that feels familiar, almost like the canticle she hums in waking life. O Luna Madre. She walks until she reaches a small stone archway, set with tiles that glimmer like illuminated margins. Some tiles show vines, others show animals. One shows a sleeping monk, curled beside an open book. Another shows a woman weaving letters into the sky, as if it were her tapestry. Celestia steps beneath the arch, and on the other side, she sees a library. It's not like the Abbey's cold and careful one. No, this is alive. Bookshelves grow from the ground like trees, their spines twisted and aged, covered in soft moss and ivy lace. Scrolls are nestled in nests made of hay and feather. Some books flutter their pages as she approaches, like birds preening their wings. Others are asleep, their covers closed, their clasps tucked like hands in prayer. A soft breeze blows through this leafy chamber, carrying the smell of ink, leather, cedar, and something older, like dreams trapped in parchment. Celestia steps toward one of the shelves. A thick book rests there, its cover pale blue, dusted with gold pollen. As she reaches for it, the book opens by itself, and instead of words, light rises from the pages. Not bright, not blinding, just soft, golden light, like candle flames seen through sleep-heavy lashes. Within the glow, she sees images. A nun painting beside a stream, a monk whispering verses to a sparrow, a child tucking a petal between the pages of a prayer book. Each image drifts by gently. Not a story, not quite memory, just moments. Moments written in ink and devotion, moments that ask for nothing, that simply are. You can sit with her here now, dear one. If you like, you may reach out and touch the pages too. The light will not wake you. The stories will not demand your mind. They are here for your rest, to comfort, to cradle, to remind you that stillness is sacred. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the turning pages. Let your body grow soft beneath the weight of this hush. Let the quiet fold around you like the corner of a woolen blanket. There is no hurry in this garden. No clock ticks here. Only the hush of old leaves, the hum of dreaming books, and the soft echo of quills and wind. And now, just as gently as it began, the dream begins to dim, not ending, just folding, like a page gently turned. The garden grows misty. The sky smooths over like silk, and Celestia feels herself being drawn back, not pulled. No, invited. The glowing page, the one she stepped into, calls her home. She walks slowly toward it, her bare feet soundless on moonlit moss. She steps back through the parchment, and once again, she is seated in her dream scriptorium. The candle on her desk flares softly, and the ink in her well ripples once, as if it remembers the garden too. Back in her cot, her sleeping body sighs, shifts just slightly. A small smile rests at the edge of her mouth. The rain has stopped. Only the distant chime of the abbey bell remains. A single tone, deep and low, that fades into the folds of the night. And you, dear listener, you are still drifting, still floating on rose-scented air and golden breath. There is nothing you must hold now. Let go even more deeply than before. This is your story now too, and it is still being written. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I got inspired by the illustrations in the latest episode and decided to write a little something for anyone who'd like to read it. Since I don't want this to be a super long video, I'm gonna put the rest of the story on another platform. If you'd like to hear the rest of it, please check the link below. Also, before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you for your amazing comments about the videos. It means a lot that you enjoy what I do. It was late, so late the fire in the hearth had dwindled to embers, each coal blinking lazily in its bed of ash. Every shelf, every scroll, every tool lay still, as if the very room itself was taking a deep breath, lost in its own dreams. And the page on Celestria's desk, the one inked in lapis and love, still lay open, still glowing faintly with gold, so soft it hummed. A thread of moonlight had slipped through the window. It fell across the parchment like a gentle fingertip, not pointing to the words, but to the tiny sleeping fox she had painted nestled in the margin. The abbey outside was slumbering, too. The rain had passed, leaving everything soft and rinsed, stone walls glistening, leaves heavy with silver beads, and the air so still and might break if whispered into. Above, the sky was clearer than it had been in days. Each star seemed a little closer now, as if they, too, were leaning in to listen, to watch Celestria's ink become prayer. And in her dormitory, her breath was slow, deep, so regular, it almost matched the rhythm of the tide pulling against some distant shore. She slept, curled on her side, her hand still stained faintly blue where she forgot to wash all the pigment away. Just a faint smudge along her wrist, like the kiss of a star. And as she dreamed, something ancient stirred, not frightening, not loud, just old. A memory, not hers. One that seemed to rise from the very stones of the abbey itself. She is no longer in the garden. She is beneath the abbey, now in the crypts. But they are not frightening or cold. They're warm, carved from honeyed limestone, lined with candles that never burn low. The air is thick with the scent of myrrh, resin, and pressed flower petals. There are no graves here, only scrolls tucked into stone alcoves, each rolled with a ribbon, each labeled with a single name. She steps softly among them, her bare feet making no sound on the stone floor. There's something familiar in the way the air curves here, like the hollow of a palm or the space inside a seashell. She reaches out and touches one scroll. The ribbon falls away at once, and the parchment unfurls on its own. There were no words on this one, only colors, swirls of pigment that move and dance, forming memories that are not hers. A nun painting in the dark, guided only by memory. A young boy grinding saffron into gold powder, weeping from its sting. An old monk laughing as he paints a snail riding a unicorn into battle. The scroll sings as it reveals these moments, a melody made of brushstrokes, of gold leaf and sighs, of soft pages turned by candlelight, and then it rolls itself shut again, as if shut. Celestria feels her chest warm. Something within her shifts, a sense of belonging she didn't even know she longed for. As if, in that moment, she knows she is part of a lineage, a chain of hands and hearts stretching backward through time, each one dipping quill to ink, each one whispering light into the dark. And now, she is next. Not the best, not the last, just the next. She bows her head softly, not in fear, not even in reverence, but in quiet gratitude, like bowing to the wind for carrying petals farther than they could fall on their own. The candles flicker and then dim, and the dream melts like wax into her bones. Back in the dormitory, a single breeze slips through the cracks in the old stone wall. It rustles the edge of Celestia's blanket, lifts a wisp of her hair, and then falls still again. But it leaves behind something small and soft at the foot of her bed. A rose petal, pale pink, dusted with the faintest shimmer of gold. She does not stir, she does not wake, but perhaps somewhere in the soft folds of sleep, she smiles. And outside, the first light of dawn begins to bloom behind the hills. A tender gray pink, like a page, not yet written, like the very beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this story. If you'd like to hear the rest of the story, please check the link below. I'm sorry it ends here, but I really do hope you go over there to continue listening because I'll be releasing all the videos there from now on. I am so grateful for your support, and I'm so glad that you've enjoyed this story. It means a lot to me that you are willing to listen to these stories and let me take you into these other worlds. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. The scene opens on an elaborate bed with a woman sleeping in it. She's young, probably in her early 20s, maybe late teens. Her hair is piled on a pillow beside her head. She's wearing a simple nightgown. The room is a mix of rustic and elegant. Heavy wooden beams overhead contrast with gossamer curtains and a stained glass window. But overall, the effect is very peaceful. As the scene progresses, we see that the woman is dreaming. We can't hear what her dream is about, but she reacts vividly to it, tossing and turning. She murmurs words we can't quite make out, and then she lets out a small gasp and stirs. For a moment, she just lies there, blinking, and then, little by little, she sits up. She's alone. There's no one else in the room with her. She looks down at the bed beside her and sees a rose petal shimmering faintly. It looks just like a regular rose petal except for its strange glow. The woman picks it up and studies it for a moment without speaking. She gets out of bed and goes over to a table on which sits an inkwell, a quill, and a book. The book is open to a page which contains some beautiful, flowing script written in gold ink. She traces the lines of the lettering with her finger, a look of intense concentration on her face. She closes her eyes and murmurs, "I feel him all around me." Before continuing, "He is my strength. He is my solace." When she speaks, her voice is clear and strong and beautiful. As she writes, more petals drift down from above and gather at her feet. They form a circle around her, and she continues writing until a bell rings in the distance. She stops and listens intently. The bell rings again. She looks down at the petals, then back to her writing. She gathers the petals together and tucks them into her skirt. She opens the window, letting in a breeze from outside. She takes a deep breath, then steps out onto a balcony. She looks out over the landscape. From above us, we pan down to reveal that she's standing on the second story of an abbey. Below her, monks are going about their daily routines, tending gardens, sweeping floors, and carrying buckets of water. She watches them for a moment, and then a smile touches her lips. She turns back to the room and walks inside. On the wall, hanging beside her window, is a beautifully crafted mirror. She walks over and gazes into it. She doesn't see herself reflected back at her though. Instead, she sees the image of a handsome young man looking back at her. He has dark hair and warm brown eyes. He smiles at her and gives her a thumbs up. She grins back and waves. The young man in the mirror bows deeply. She laughs and throws her head back. As she does so, a lock of hair falls over her shoulder. "You're awake," the other woman says, smiling. "I was wondering when you would come. I slept longer than I meant to," our protagonist replies, smiling back. The other woman nods understandingly. "Your dreams were very powerful, weren't they?" she asks. Our protagonist hesitates, then says, "Yes, the strongest I've had in a while. I thought maybe I should write them down." "A wise decision," the other woman says with a smile. "They are important. These dreams, you must keep them safe." She leads our protagonist through the hallway and into a large, vaulted room. As they walk, the other woman says, "The novices will be up soon. Come, I will bring you some breakfast." Our protagonist nods silently. They arrive at a table laden with bread, cheese, fruit, and wine. The other woman pours our protagonist a glass of wine and hands it to her. "Eat," she says. "You haven't eaten since yesterday at Our protagonist takes a sip of wine and reaches for a piece of bread. The other woman sits down opposite her and says, "Tell me about your dream." Our protagonist hesitates, then begins to speak. As she does, the other woman's expression changes. She becomes more serious. Our protagonist finishes her story. The other woman nods slowly. "It was the raven, wasn't it?" she asks. "Yes," our protagonist replies. The other woman falls silent. She stares into the distance. "You must be careful," she says finally. "The raven is a trickster. He will play on your hopes, tempt you with visions, but he brings me peace." Our protagonist protests, "Not the kind that lasts." The other woman replies sadly, "Beware his gifts. They are laced with sorrow." Our protagonist promises. She reaches out and takes the other woman's hand. "I trust you," she says, "but I need you to believe in me, too. I am strong. I am brave. I can do this." The other woman squeezes her hand. "I know you can," she whispers. Our protagonist rises. She kisses the other woman on the cheek, then walks away. As she does, the other woman closes her eyes and whispers, "May God grant you peace." Our protagonist walks down a corridor lit by flickering candlelight. At the end of the corridor, she sees a tall, imposing figure standing in the shadows. She approaches cautiously. "Brother Thomas," she says hesitantly. Brother Thomas turns and smiles warmly at her. "Celestia," he says, "come with me. It is time." He leads her out of the corridor and into a large, echoing chamber. Inside the chamber, rows upon rows of candles flicker, casting dancing shadows on the walls. At the far end of the chamber, a single figure stands bathed in candlelight. She is robed in white and a golden crown rests on her head. As Celestia watches, mesmerized, the other woman from earlier emerges from the shadows. She, too, is robed in white, and she walks over to Celestia. "Do you remember what I told you?" she asks, her voice echoing strangely in the vast space. Celestia nods, her eyes still fixed on the woman in white. The woman takes Celestria's hand and leads her forward. "Repeat after me," she says. Celestia takes a deep breath and begins to speak. She repeats the words, her voice echoing strangely in the vast space. The candles flicker and pop, sending sparks flying. The woman in white raises her arms, and the flames of all the candles flare brightly. She opens her mouth and speaks. Her voice is loud and clear and echoes throughout the chamber. Hear the, let all the voices of heaven resound. Sing aloud. The choirs of angels proclaim it. The trumpeters shout it. The heralds ring out. The bells proclaim it. She turns and gestures towards, and let the daughter of the morning sing her song of peace. Celestia steps forward and sings. Her voice is clear and strong. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Peace be with you, world without end. As she sings, the candle flames begin to dance. They twist and turn, reaching for the ceiling. The air grows warm, and the scent of incense fills the chamber. The scene fades to black. I've always thought of illumination as this grand, flourishing style of art, and it is, but it's also very personal, which is why I love making these videos for you all. Illuminating your day, making art with you, teaching you things, These videos are my own little illuminated manuscript, if you will. They're filled with messages and meaning and made to be shared. And when I think about the fact that people like you watch them, it makes me want to fill each one with even more care. That's why we're so excited to make this piece inspired by medieval illumination. I kept thinking of this quote by the painter and printmaker Mervyn Peake. It says, "A picture is a poem without words." So I wanted to take that idea and run with it. Here we see our scribe, Celestia, receiving a series of messages from the outside world. The first, in the form of a petal on her windowsill. The second, in the rustling of her garden. And the third, in the moth that lands on her shoulder. These are not just random elements. They're clues, like breadcrumbs, that hint at the deeper meaning of the painting. Let's talk about the layout. The vertical orientation is key. It mimics the shape of a medieval manuscript, where the text runs from top to bottom, line by line. Now, let's talk about the perspective. We're inside the scriptorium looking out. You can see the window and the garden beyond. The building's lining, the windows are tall and thin, creating vertical lines that draw your eye upward. The same goes for the columns holding up the ceiling. These elements combined give the painting a sense of height and openness. Now let's break down the lighting. This painting isn't just about what you see. It's about how you see it. There's this magical quality to the way sunlight interacts with the scene. Celestia is surrounded by this halo of sorts. It's like the light itself is paying attention to her, highlighting her and giving her importance. Look at how the light touches the fingertips and the fold of her robe. Even the shadows seem to dance around her. As we dive into the details, we find even more layers of meaning. Celestia's dress is covered in pomegranates, a symbol of immortality and the cycle of life and death. On the wall, there's this roundel with a lion, representing courage and strength. And next to it, a mirror hinting at introspection and self-discovery. Now let's focus on the flowers. They're not just pretty backdrops. They're symbolic too. The wisteria cascading over the window is associated with wisdom and spirituality, while the lavender bushes represent devotion and peace. And then there's the garden. It's not just a place, it's a portal to the divine. The circular opening frames the garden as a sacred space. The path invites us to walk towards the light and the unknown. This garden isn't just a literal place, it's a metaphor for Celestia's inner journey. Just as the garden is filled with symbolism, so is Celestia's heart. Now let's talk about the colors. The cool purples and blues represent contemplation and spirituality, while the warm yellows and oranges suggest joy and enlightenment. And then there's that one splash of red, the pomegranate on her dress. It draws your eye and hints at passion and sacrifice. By the way, I chose Celestia because it means heavenly, but I also love the way it sounds. Now let's discuss the subject. Celestia herself. She's not just a pretty face. She represents all of us, seeking wisdom and connection. She's thoughtful, introspective, and deeply connected to the natural world. Her posture is confident, but also humble. She's not afraid to sit in silence and listen. In fact, it's in those quiet moments that she receives her greatest gifts. The entire painting is about finding messages in the quietest corners of life. It's about learning to listen to the whispers of the universe. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound messages come to us when we least expect them. Maybe it's in the rustling of leaves outside our window, or the gentle touch of a petal on our skin. Now let's talk about composition. We're going to look at how artists arrange visual elements to create balance and interest. And then we'll talk about line. Line is everywhere in this painting. It defines shapes, creates patterns, and guides your eye throughout the artwork. In this piece, I use line to create a sense of movement and flow. Look at how the lines of the windows and columns repeat and intersect. It leads your eye around the painting, creating a sense of rhythm. Next, let's look at value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. I used a range of values to create depth and dimension. The darker tones on the left contrast with the lighter tones on the right, drawing your eye towards the center of the painting. Now let's talk about texture. The smooth glass of the window contrasts with the rough stone of the wall, adding visual interest and depth. I'm really proud of this piece. I put a lot of myself into it. My love for medieval art, my fascination with nature, and my belief in the power of feminine energy. This painting is a celebration of all those things. It's a reminder to slow down, to pay attention to the details, and to find joy in the everyday. So who is She's a character I created specifically for this painting. She doesn't exist in any book or legend. She's purely a figment of my imagination. But that doesn't mean she's not real. To me, she represents a certain kind of woman. A woman who is deeply connected to nature, who finds magic in the mundane, and who is unafraid of solitude. Celestria is a dreamer, a seeker of wisdom, and a lover of beauty. She's patient, kind, and compassionate, and she has a deep respect for all living things. This painting was inspired by several sources. First and foremost, I was thinking of medieval illuminated manuscripts, especially the ones with intricate borders and delicate floral motifs. I was also thinking of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, a group of English painters who were fascinated with medieval art and literature. And finally, I was thinking of the poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins, an English Jesuit priest and poet whose work often celebrated the beauty of nature. When I started this painting, I didn't know where it was going to lead me. I just had a vague idea and some sketches, but as I worked, I started to discover new things about the character and the story I wanted to tell. I found myself thinking about the character's backstory, her relationships, and her hopes and dreams, and I started to feel a deep connection with her. The process of creating this piece taught me a lot about myself as an artist. I learned that I'm capable of creating something truly unique, something that is all my own. I also learned that I'm not afraid of complexity. I used to shy away from intricate details, but in this piece, I embraced them, and I found that the more complex the painting became, the more rewarding it was to create. Thank you for joining me on this creative journey. If you liked this video, please share it with your friends. And if you'd like to support my work, consider becoming a member. I appreciate every bit of support, and I can't wait to share more of my art with you in the future. Until next time, happy painting. I've been thinking about this image all week. A moth landing on a woman's shoulder. There's something so powerful to me about that image. I'm really lucky because my publisher suggested we use this beautiful artwork by Sam Coldwell for the cover of the Ink Exchange. So when I saw this image, I was like, yes, this is going to be the cover. It felt perfect. And it is actually even more perfect now because we've talked about the book and the story and the characters. And so much of what Celestria is about is contained in this image. So the book opens with this image, with a moth resting on Celestria. Its wings slowly rise and fall, not like flapping, but like breathing. And in the warm silence of the garden, it feels not like an insect, but like a messenger. Something sacred, something older than the abbey walls, and older even than the first quill that ever touched parchment. She closes her eyes, listens, not for sound, but for sense. Somewhere deep inside her chest, she feels the shape of something forming, a quiet knowing, like a word just on the tip of the soul. LSUM. What comes next? She doesn't ask aloud. She doesn't need to. She only breathes and waits. Celestria is surrounded by words. She lives in a world made of words, a world where people trade messages in bottles filled with ink. But what is interesting to me is how rarely she pauses to listen for the words that already exist within her. And a lot of this story is about finding those words and listening to the ones she already has inside her. And the moth, in a way, represents everything that Celestria is missing. It shows up right at the beginning of the story, and it speaks to her in a way that she can understand, in a language that she doesn't speak. But the moth doesn't have to speak in words. The moth just has to show up, and that communicates something deeply important to Celestria, something that she can't communicate to herself. So the moth is kind of like the story and stories in general, things that speak to us without saying anything directly. That's one of the reasons why I love stories so much. They speak to us in the quiet moments, in the spaces between words. Stories help us say the things that we can't say ourselves. And this scene with the moth unfolds so slowly. It takes up almost the entirety of the first chapter, and it unfolds in such a deliberate way. It's part of what makes this story so unique. The pacing is so unusual. Most stories don't take the time to linger like this. They don't give space for these quieter, more meaningful moments. But that's exactly what makes this story different. It's interested in the quiet. It revels in it. It celebrates it. And I think that stories, like moths, have a way of finding us at exactly the right time. They seek us out. They guide us to them. Draw us to them. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe we're drawn to them. But either way, there's always a reason why we read a certain book at a certain time in our life. It's almost like stories have their own intelligence. They know when we need them, and they know what we need to hear. And the moth lifts from her shoulder, circles once, then disappears into the dusk. It swings, whispering like dry pages turning in the wind. Celestria sits quietly for a long time. The stars are brighter now. The sky has grown thick with velvet blue. The garden is a cathedral of crickets, a quiet choir, steady and slow. This moment when the moth flies away, it feels like the beginning of a pilgrimage, like Celestria is about to set out on a journey. But the journey isn't anywhere physical. It's really an inward journey, and the rest of the story is going to be about seeking, about searching, about the kinds of discoveries that don't always reveal themselves easily. She thinks of her dream, the one from the crypts beneath the abbey. The scrolls had opened with light instead of words, and something stirs in her memory. A small scroll, hidden behind others, too shy, too unrolled, but tied with a ribbon that shimmered green. She hadn't opened it then, but now in the silence of the garden, she feels the memory of its weight in her hand. And what's interesting here is that Celestria has had this experience before. She's dreamt it. She's had visions of it, and maybe she's dismissed it because she didn't understand it. Maybe she pushed it away because it didn't make any sense. But dreams keep returning to us, pulling us back to them, showing us things we need to see. And sometimes we have to return to our dreams because we were unready to listen the first time. She, not hurriedly, just gently, like a petal lifted by a breath of wind, she walks barefoot back to the abbey, the stone still warm from the sun's final kiss, past the kitchen, where the scent of honeyed oats still lingers, past the cloister, where moonlight lays in long silver bars across the walk, and down into the cool hush of the crypts. When Celestria goes back to the abbey, she doesn't take the most direct route. She wanders past the kitchen, past the cloister, places that feel familiar and safe, places that hold memories and comfort her. And then finally she goes down into the crypts. And I wanted to write a story set in a place like this, because it is a place of peace for me. It is a place where I feel rooted and centered and connected to all of the stories that have come before me. For me, stories are sacred. There's something to be treasured and respected. And so, setting the story in a place like this, in the crypts of an abbey, allows me to treat them that way, and to remind myself, and hopefully my readers, to treat stories that way as well. The lantern she carries flickers with amber light. Its glow dances on the limestone walls, casting shadows that look like monks bowed in prayer. The air smells of old parchment and pressed thyme. Still sacred. I wanted this story to feel timeless in a way. I wanted it to have a quality of agelessness to it, which is why I chose to set it in a place like this, in a monastery, in a garden, in a crypts. These are places that transcend time. They belong to another era. They feel timeless. She walks with confidence. Now, the path, familiar, as though she has walked it in dreams 100 times before. She turns the final corner, and there it is, just as she remembered, tucked behind a row of broader scrolls. Small, delicate, tied with a ribbon green as malachite. She reaches for it. The scroll feels warm, alive. The ribbon slips off without resistance, and the parchment unfurls slowly in her hands. This time there are words, but they do not seem written with ink. They glow from the parchment, soft, flickering like candlelight through water, and they read, "The message you follow is older than language. It grows not from thought, but from listening." Below the words, a single symbol, a quill, curled into a spiral, its tip blooming into a rose. And I knew from the moment I wrote those words that this would be the opening line of the sequel that I am currently working on. It felt like a sign. It felt like fate. When I finished writing those words, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. It was like everything was exactly where it needed to be. It was like I had come home. And that feeling hasn't gone away. It's still there. I still feel it every time I think about this story. Celestia stares. She feels no fear, only a quiet awe, as if something inside her is being remembered rather than learned. She closes the scroll gently, tucks it into the folds of her robe, and begins to hum a single note. Soft, steady, oh, Luna, Madre silent. And the stone walls echo it back, not louder, but deeper, as if the abbey itself knows the words. And this ending, the way the story resolves, it's not the kind of ending that usually happens in stories. This isn't the kind of ending that we're used to seeing. And that's another thing that makes this story special. It defies our expectations. It subverts our assumptions. It surprises us. And I hope that surprises us in the best possible way. I hope it leaves us feeling thoughtful and reflective, and open to the possibility that there is more to life than what we can see. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for coming on this journey with me. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. It helps me reach more readers, and it helps spread the word about books and stories that might just change their lives. Thanks for listening. Take care, and happy reading. The morning is pale and new. The sun rises gently, like a page being turned. It filters through the stained glass windows in ribbons, peach, gold, lavender, casting patterns on the stone walls that flicker like soft embroidery. The abbey moves slowly. No rush, no harsh sound, only the gentle rustle of robes, the clink of pottery in the kitchen, the soft sweep of broom over cool floor, and above all, a sense of listening, as though the walls themselves remember dreams. Celestia wakes quietly. No alarm, no call, just her eyes opening. Slowly, to the hush of morning, her fingers find the edge of her blanket, then drift toward the small ceramic dish beside her bed. She lifts the 5th petal. Violet, still glowing faintly from the dream, she lays it beside the others and reads them now aloud. For the first time, LSUME, 5 letters. No clear meaning yet, but a rhythm, a music. Something in the bones of the word stirs a memory, though it hasn't revealed itself fully. Not yet. After morning prayers, she returns to the scribe. The room welcomes her like a favorite hymn. The scent of beeswax and pigment clings to the air. Sunlight pools on the wooden desk, and her tools, her quill, her mortar, her pigments, feel like old friends waiting patiently for her touch. She sits, unrolls her parchment, and takes out the petals. She does not know why, only that they belong here now, laid gently across the top of her desk, as if they, too, are tools, or signs, or quiet prayers. Today she grinds weld a yellow flower, once used by monks to dye their robes. Its golden color is warm, sun-like, and smells faintly of dry hay and honey. She mixes it with egg and water, watching as the color blooms in the dish like sunshine spilled across a bowl. She begins to paint a new page. Each letter forms slowly, deliberately, as though she is not writing them, but uncovering them, brushing dust from buried relics. She doesn't know what she's spelling yet, but her hand moves with calm certainty. The abbey is not empty of sound, but the sounds are soft, the kind that hushed rather than stir. Doves cooing from the cloister arch, wind curling through cracks in the ancient stones, a distant chant rising from the lower chapel, like incense on breath, and over all of it, the slow scratch of Celestria's quill, scritch, pause, scritch, like the quiet ticking of a clock made only for dreams. As she finishes a golden flourish on the page's border, her hand slows, her breath deepens. She looks again at the petals, the 5 letters, and something clicks. Not a sound, but a sensation, a turning of the inner key. The letters begin to shift in her mind, until a new form glows softly behind her eyes. M-U-S-E-L. No, not quite. She tries again. M-U-S-E-L. A-A, she gasps softly. There was a 6th petal in the dream. It had not arrived yet, but she remembers it now. The edge of it, fluttering just at the edge of her vision, before the dream faded. A, museal, she whispers the word. It does not sound like anything at first, but then the pieces begin to gather. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it, and be sure to stay tuned for more content. You can also check out more of my work on my social media or website. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day. When Celestia discovered the Book of Light's memory, she didn't recognize the writing at first. Symbols, instead of letters, danced in shades of blue. Underneath, as if trying to explain their shapes, simple English words emerged. In this book, stories flowed out in colors and formed themselves into pictures. At least that's how it felt to no skill of hers, or any other scribe, could bring those forth. The book wrote itself. Well, not entirely itself, for while those symbols were written in radiant hues of sky and sea, the words underneath were penned in soot, black as ash on bleached bone. And within that contrast lay a haunting knowledge. Now, since then, the stories had stopped flowing. The petals had wilted. The inks were dry. The room where the book rested was bare save for shadows and dust motes dancing in the sunbeams that slanted through the windows. But then, after days spent poring over musty texts and weeks passed in meditation, inspiration struck. 5 petals she cut from petals, each bearing one letter of the name of the church they served. Now laid out before her on the desk, she traced them with her finger. Slowly, the scent of weld filled the air, rich and sharp, mingling with the dust, warm and earthy and golden. She closed her eyes and reached out. Her fingertips sparked with sudden light. The scriptorium is very quiet. The air feels heavier somehow, not with weight, but with presence, as if the walls are aware, as if the windows remember the hands that built them. And the page on Celestria's desk shimmers now with something beyond light. She breathes in. The scent of weld still clings to her fingers. Warm, earthy, golden. She dips her quill again. Not to write, but to listen. Her strokes are slower now, each one deliberate, as though transcribing something that already exists just beneath the visible world. The word museal hums in her bones. A page that listens, a page that dreams. She understands. Now, this page she's crafting is not hers alone. From the doorway, soft footsteps, not loud, barely a breath on stone, but enough to stir the air. Celestria turns, expecting another novice, but finds only a shadow. Gentle, still. Then Sister Evil steps into view. Her robes are gray, her hair silvered, her eyes kind. She doesn't speak right away, only looks at the page, then at the petals. Her gaze lingers there, on the 5 delicate symbols laid across the desk, and she nods, as if she understands exactly what they are. You've begun, Sister Evil says softly. Celestria's heart skips, but not from fear, from recognition. She nods. I think so. Sister Evil steps closer, her voice like a stream beneath moss. Few are called to it, fewer still listen. She reaches into the folds of her robe and withdraws something small, wrapped in cloth. She sets it beside the petals, unfolds it slowly. Inside lies a 6th petal, a pale gold, etched in a hand so fine it nearly disappears into the light. Celestria lifts it with The set is complete now. LSUMEA Sister Evil watches her. Do you know what it says? Celestria breathes. Not just letters. It's not only a word. No, Sister Evil whispers. It's a door. The Abbey has always held secrets. Not dark ones. Not cruel, but quiet truths. Deep as the stone foundations, and just as enduring. Sister Evil sits beside her. Long ago, before she ever taught the younger scribes, she too had dreamed of petals, of pages that whispered in sleep, of ink that shimmered with voices long gone. Each generation, she says, one among us, is called to keep the museal flame alive. Not to preserve the past, but to help it breathe again. Celestria feels it now. Not pressure, not burden, but belonging. She has not stumbled upon this path. She has remembered it. Her hand touches the scroll beneath her parchment. Still warm, still listening. She unrolls it again. And this time, new words appear, soft and glowing. Begin the Book of Light's memory. Sister Evil rises. You will need the midnight ink soon, and the 7th petal will not be given. You must grow it. Celestria nods. She understands. Not with her mind, but with something gentler. Something nestled between heartbeats. As the elder nun leaves, a breeze stirs the petals. They lift just slightly and settle into a new shape on the desk. Not in a line now, but in a circle, and in its center, the page she's painting glows ever brighter. Its border humming with unseen melody, its letters casting faint reflections like candlelight in water. Outside, the first fireflies of evening rise in the herb garden, little sparks drifting through the twilight, as if the stars themselves had come down to read with her by the window. Celestria dips her brush once more, and begins. Her pen scratches across the vellum, slow and careful. With each stroke, the ink flows like liquid starlight, tracing tales of old. She writes of kings and queens, of battles won and lost, of laughter echoing in halls of state. Each word a pearl, carefully strung upon the page, each sentence a tapestry, weaving history's vibrant threads. The past comes alive beneath her pen, not as dusty relics, but as friends, long gone. She pauses, her quill hovering over the page. She recalls a knight-errant, Sir Gareth, famed for valor and for deeds of might, who fell in battle, young and bold. His story, sung by bards of old, his spirit lingers near. She senses a gentle presence, eager to be freed from memories. Misty whole, Celestia dips her quill in midnight ink, her hands steady now, and continues her tale, giving voice to heroes, both the grand and small, and setting their spirits free to roam. For every soul that rests in peace, she sings, there's a tale that waits to find its way, a story yearning to be told, to break the silence of the grave and make the dead feel whole. So she writes on through the velvet night, her lamp a beacon, casting shadows in the fading light. And with each stroke, the abbey walls seem to sigh, releasing stories that refuse to die. Hours pass, the fireflies have ceased their dance, and moonlight paints the floor in silver trance. The words flow now, a living stream, carrying voices back to life again. She writes of love and loss, of joy and pain, and of lives that touch the hearts of men. She writes of faith, of hope and prayer, of battles fought and victories hard won, of legends born and battles done. And as she writes, the shadows on the wall grow tall and thin, reaching fingers, beckoning her in. But Celestia does not heed their call, her eyes fixed on the words that form and fall. For she is bound by oath and vow to set the captive spirits free to roam. Then suddenly, a whisper breaks the spell, a touch of cold, a story left untold. A presence fills the scriptorium now. Not a darkness, but a dawning light. The pages turn, revealing visions clear of worlds unseen, where spirits linger near. With trembling hand, Celestia starts anew, her ink now silver, catching morning's hue. She writes of realms beyond the veil, where souls reside and silent stories sail. She writes of love that knows no end, of friendships forged and dreams that blend. The spirits gathered, watching near, as memories bloom and banish fear. She writes of courage, strong and true, of battles fought and victories anew. And with each word, the abbey walls seem to sigh, releasing stories that refuse to die. As dawn's first light begins to creep, she writes of secrets buried deep, of mysteries that twist and turn, and of lessons learned when all is burned. Her quill dances swift, her ink takes flight, as stories soar to new heights. With every stroke, the abbey's ancient heart awakens, beating with stories that refuse to break. At last, the final word is penned, and silence falls. The stories end, but still, she feels their presence, near a chorus soft, whispering in her ear. Then, as the sun begins its climb, she seals the book with mystic rhyme, and with a kiss, she lets the stories rest, knowing their spirits now are free, forever blessed. As the first rays of sunlight touch her face, she hears a gentle "well done," and in her heart, a warmth that knows no bounds. She finds the strength to rise and greet the day her spirit soared, her purpose found. The book of lights, memory closed, its secrets safe, its stories dosed. Celestia steps out into the light, her quill held high, a warrior's might, for she has tamed the mystic art and set the captive spirits free to start anew. Hello friends, it's me here with a little bit of an experiment. As some of you know, I love reading medieval manuscripts, and so I started thinking about how I could share that love in a different way. And then I had the idea to try my hand at writing my own medieval-inspired story. Now, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is not a medieval mystery or anything like that. But I am trying to evoke that feeling of reading an illuminated manuscript, of sitting in a scriptorium and trying to imagine the person who wrote these beautiful books all those years ago. So with that in mind, I wrote this little scene which takes place in a fictional abbey. Though the references are very real and true to medieval life, let me introduce you to the fictional character of our protagonist, and let's spend a night with her in the scriptorium. Night has returned, not suddenly, but like a kind old friend slipping into the room without creaking the door. The moon rises higher tonight, its light milkier than before, casting pale shadows that stretch across the scriptorium floor like long, quiet brush. Celestia does not sleep. She sits at her desk, a candle burning low beside her, its flame dancing softly, just enough to warm the ink. The 6 petals rest in their circle, each one glowing faintly, as if lit from within by their own remembering. And in the center, her musical page is nearly finished. The border is complete now. A ring of gold leaf ivy, intertwined with roses, and sleeping animals curled in their own dreams. The center of the page is still blank, but not empty. It waits, like soil warmed and watered, expecting something soon to bloom. Celestia lifts her brush, dips it into a new ink, one she mixed just before sunset. The midnight ink Sister Evil spoke of, made from crushed charcoal and elderberry, with one drop of her own breath caught in the glass stopper as she whispered a prayer into it. It gleams blue-black in the candlelight. She presses the brush to the parchment. The first stroke is slow, steady. She does not choose the letter, it chooses her. A curved line, a soft tail, then another. She paints without haste, without fear. Each letter unfurls like a vine reaching toward moonlight. And when she finishes the final mark, she breathes out long and low, as if exhaling more than air. And there it is. The word at the heart of it all. She says it aloud, a whisper barely louder than thought. Meh. More. Ah. Not memory. Not quite. But memora, a word known only to the page, to the ink, to the dreams passed from hand to hand. Outside the window, a single breeze stirs the rosemary in the cloister garden. It moves gently through the abbey, curling under the scriptorium door, rising around Celestia's desk. And as it brushes her cheek, something shimmers. She looks down. In the center of the petal circle, something new has appeared. Not dropped, not placed, grown a 7th petal. It is white, almost translucent, like given form. There is no letter on it, but instead it bears a mark, a tiny spiral, like the tip of a quill coiling inward. Celestia lifts it reverently, and as her fingers touch it, a vision washes over her. A young woman in a high tower, centuries ago, painting stars with her fingertips onto vellum. An old monk, deep in winter, scratching a prayer into the margin of a weathered book. Just before his final breath, a child in a distant village, watching their mother mix colors from crushed rose hips and frost. And in each of their hands, a petal, not a literal one, but a piece of memory handed to them by something quiet and ancient, something that listens. The vision fades, and the petal glows warmer in her hand. Not hot, just present. She places it gently on the center of the musical page. It lands, without a sound, and immediately it begins to sink, not downward, but into the parchment, melding with the gold, becoming part of the story. And the word memora glows brighter. In medieval abbeys, scribes sometimes whispered that the most sacred pages were not the ones displayed, but the ones buried deep in stone walls, never seen again, not because they were hidden, but because they were complete. The act of writing them was the prayer. The meaning was not for others, but for the ink itself. Celestia understands this. Now, the petals, the page, the 7th sign, they were not meant to be revealed to the world. They were meant to awaken a knowing that had been waiting within her all along. And now, it has bloomed. I hope you enjoyed that little experiment. I want to thank you for joining me in the scriptorium for a night, and allowing me to play around with this creative writing thing. I really enjoy reading medieval manuscripts, but I've always wanted to try my hand at making something like this myself. And thanks to all of you for your support, for sharing my work, and for commenting. and letting me know what you would like to see more of. And I'll let you in on a secret. I actually have a second story that I've written, but I'm going to hold off on that one for a little while. I don't want to give you too much of a good thing, but I do appreciate you sticking around for the end of this video. And speaking of sticking around, if you're looking for something to watch next, why not check out this playlist? It's full of videos about illuminated manuscripts and other medieval art. You might also enjoy my video on medieval calligraphy, where I show you how to make your own alphabet inspired by these beautiful letters. Or if you're interested in learning about Celtic illuminated manuscripts, I've got you covered there as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Let's keep going. The candle burns lower. Its flame bends slightly, as if bowing to the hush that now fills the seventh petal has vanished into the page. Not erased, not gone, but absorbed. Its essence still lingers, a soft shimmer woven into the ink and the golden frame of the word. Celestria sits still. Her brush rests in the ink dish, untouched, and in her lap, her hands cradle silence. Outside the scriptorium, the abbey sleeps. No footsteps, no bells, only the slow rhythm of midnight's breath moving through stone corridors and cloister gardens. The moon has begun to dip westward, its light thinner now, like a whisper running out of voice. And yet inside this moment, inside the soft glow of the page, time seems to fold inward. Quiet. Whole Celestria leans forward. She watches the ink, not for movement, but for response. She knows now that this page is listening. The museal page doesn't capture sound. It captures presence, emotion, essence. She places her hand over the parchment, not touching it, just hovering. And then she closes her eyes. She does not speak aloud. Instead, she remembers her first night in the abbey, the scent of lavender in the dormitory, the warmth of a candle held in trembling hands, the softness of Sister Evil's voice as she showed her how to grind rose petals into pigment, the ache she felt the first time she saw a fox curled into sleep in the margin of a centuries-old psalter. As if even wild creatures knew how to pray, she offers these memories, one by one, slowly, like petals on still water. The ink beneath her hand warms. A single fleck of gold leaf rises from the page, suspended in air for just a moment before settling gently again, but in a new place, as though it had been moved by understanding. The page is alive now, not breathing, but being. In the deepest corners of medieval Europe, some illuminated manuscripts were thought to be more than books. They were believed to be vessels, carriers of the soul's gentle truths. A page illuminated by true memory was said to glow faintly for generations, visible only to those who dreamed beside it. Celestria remembers this as she lifts her hand, and the page glows again. This time, not with light, but with stillness, as if it has received what it was always waiting for. She wraps the parchment carefully, not to hide it, but to honor it, like tucking in a sleeping child. She places it in a carved wooden box, lined with soft cloth, and latches it with a ribbon, dyed from weld and wine. Not sealed away, but cradled. The museal is complete. As she turns to leave the scriptorium, the first hush of dawn has begun to stir. Not light, but the space before light. That soft, pearled silence, when the sky hasn't yet decided if it will turn gold or gray. Her bare feet are soundless on the stone, her breath calm, her thoughts featherlight. And as she passes the chapel door, she feels it, a presence. Not someone watching, but someone waiting. Inside the chapel, the candlelight is shifted. One single flame, the tallest at the altar, has bent toward the door, its glow reaching in her direction. She walks toward it. The doors part without sound. The chapel welcomes her like a memory, and on the altar, resting gently atop the linen, is a small scroll, tied with a strand of white thread. She knows instantly what it is, not from sight, but from the weight in the air. She picks it up, unties the thread, unrolls it, and finds one single word, glowing faintly, shaped as though written in her own hand. Again, It's time for another set of prompts from our ever-popular series, Set in Stone. These prompts were suggested by viewers just like you. So let's get started. Our first prompt reads, "The scroll in Celestria's hands glows faintly, its parchment warm to the touch, like breath caught in memory. The word is simple, gentle, but full of something vast. She doesn't question it. There is no need. The word doesn't ask. It invites." She sits on one of the wooden benches, knees tucked beneath her, in the hush of the chapel. The great candle at the altar still leans gently toward her, its flame moving like it recognizes her breath. And around her, the chapel is filled with a kind of silence that feels alive. Not empty, but full. She unrolls the scroll further, expecting more words, more guidance. But the rest of the parchment is blank, unmarked, as if waiting. She leans closer, and only then sees it barely visible, etched faintly in a spiral that glows only when her eyes soften. A single line, curled in silver ink. The cycle begins anew, but the light remembers its path. She breathes in. This is one of those rare prompts where I feel like most of the story is actually in the details of the world building. For me, the most interesting part is this idea that certain scrolls do not contain knowledge, but rather they echo the souls who've read them before. This concept blends magical realism with a beautiful meditation on memory and legacy. So when writing your scene, think about the details that stick in your reader's mind long after they finish the story. What kind of magic system undergirds this world? How does it impact the way people live? What kinds of emotions or memories are these scrolls able to access? Now, let's look at some possible directions we could take with this story. Celestria has received the scroll with the word gentle on it. Perhaps there are others with different words, and each word represents a different kind of wisdom or power. Maybe she has a collection of these scrolls. Maybe she travels from place to place, trying to find them all. We also see that the scroll contains a message about a cycle beginning anew, but the light, remembering its path. Does this mean that Celestria is embarking on a new journey after a period of darkness? Has she faced a challenge recently that she needs to overcome? Or is this a message about healing or redemption? Your story could follow Celestria as she seeks out the source of these messages, either physically or emotionally. Our next prompt reads, Celestria folds the scroll again, places it over her heart, and lets herself close her eyes. A hush falls even deeper, like silk, and in that hush, a shape begins to form. Not in her mind, but behind it, a door. She does not stand. She does not move. She simply drifts. The chapel fades around her, melting into moonlight and memory. The stones dissolve. The candle's flame flickers and becomes a star. The bench beneath her becomes a path of air, and she steps through the door. I love how you've used sensory details to evoke a sense of wonder and mystery. When writing about magical experiences, it can be helpful to engage all 5 senses. How does magic affect the physical world? How does it feel, smell, sound, or even taste? By grounding your story in the physical world, even if it's a fantastical one, you make the experience feel real and tangible to your reader. Celestria is letting herself drift away. Where is she going? Is this a regular occurrence for her? Or is this something new? How does it feel to pass through this door? What does she see on the other side? Now, let's look at some ways this scene could develop. The image of a door dissolving into a path of air suggests a journey of transformation. Perhaps Celestria is literally stepping through different phases of her own personal growth. Think about how you can use the setting to symbolize Celestria's internal journey. The fact that the candle flame turns into a star implies a connection to the celestial or divine. Maybe Celestria is guided by a higher power, or maybe she has the ability to manipulate stars or the moon in some way. Could it be a celestial map that helps guide her on her journey? Is she destined to fulfill a greater purpose? Our next prompt reads, on the other side, a room she has never seen but knows. Not a memory, not a place, but a moment. The walls are made of light. The floor is woven from quills and old prayers, and in the center, a great book, closed, bound in pale violet leather, its cover embroidered with a circle of 7 tiny flowers, each the color of a petal she had held. She steps closer. Her hand hovers over the cover, not ready to open it. Not yet, but feeling the pulse of something vast inside. I really like this magical element of the book responding to Celestria's touch. What a powerful symbol of connection. This book seems to hold great significance for Celestia. Why does she feel compelled to open it? What kind of power does it possess? Remember, the most compelling stories often explore themes of self-discovery and personal growth. How might opening this book change Celestria's life? Could it contain answers to questions she didn't even know how to ask? Now let's consider some directions we could take with this. The description of the room as a moment that she knows but has never seen suggests a connection to time travel or alternate realities. How does this moment fit into Celestria's life? Is it a pivotal moment that she needs to revisit or correct? The fact that the walls are made of light and the floor is woven from quills and old prayers indicates a strong connection to creativity and spirituality. Could this be a place of healing or enlightenment? The great book bound in pale violet leather with 7 embroidered flowers suggests a connection to nature and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Each flower could represent a different aspect of Celestria's journey. How might these flowers play a significant role in her story? Our next prompt reads, "This book is not of stories past. It is becoming. Each petal she touched, each line she wrote, each breath she gave to the ink, they have all led here. Not to an ending, but to a beginning again." She places both hands on the book, not to read, not even to open, just to feel. And in that listening, Celestia finds something extraordinary. She is not reading the book, she is being read by it. This is such a beautifully written and evocative passage. I love the idea that the book is not just a repository of stories, but an active participant in the narrative. You've done a great job of building suspense and intrigue. How will the book respond to Celestria's touch? What kind of wisdom or knowledge will it impart? Remember, the most compelling stories often explore themes of self-discovery and personal growth. How might this encounter change Celestria's perspective or understanding of the world? As you continue writing this scene, consider these questions. What does it mean for the book to be reading? Is this a reciprocal exchange of knowledge and power? How does this scene contribute to the overall theme and message of your story? What kind of story is this? Is it a fairy tale? A legend? A myth? Keeping these things in mind, you can craft a truly unforgettable scene that will leave your readers eager to learn what happens next. Our next prompt reads, "The cover glows. The 7 flowers shimmer, and a final symbol appears at the center. A quill, uncoiling, becoming a circle. The mark of return, the mark of completion, the mark of the beginning that never truly ends." This is an exciting moment in the story. We've even building up to this moment of revelation. And now we finally get to see the outcome. What does this mark mean? Is it a symbol of Celestria's transformation or a representation of the cycle she mentioned earlier? How will this knowledge impact the story moving forward? As you write this final scene, consider how this discovery will affect Celestria's journey. Will she continue to seek out these scrolls and unlock the secrets of the book? Or will she face opposition from forces that want to keep this knowledge hidden? Remember, the most compelling stories often explore themes of self-discovery and personal growth. How does this discovery fit into the larger narrative of Celestria's life? Well, that wraps up today's set of prompts. Don't forget to share your story using the hashtag provided. And if you liked these prompts, please hit the like button for more. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, happy writing. I've been thinking about the nature of magic lately. When I was a kid, magic always meant flashy spells and incantations. My mind conjured images of bright light and booming voices. When I heard the word, magic was awesome and scary, and rarely understood. But now I think magic is best when it's subtle, when it fades into the background, when it's just there. Take, for instance, the hero forge mists. Our mists that envelop our little city. The mists are imbued with magic, that protects us from harm and heals our wounds. Most folk go about their lives unaware of the mist's power, and that's good. I can see how it might get real annoying real fast if everyone had to be reminded of the mist's protection all the time. Another example would be the communion between our island and our hotwood grove, the nexus of our island's magic. We feel the forest's emotions sometimes, a deep, abiding peace, or a rustling anxiety. But most of the time we don't. We just live our lives and farm our crops and raise our children, although we honor the grove when we can. The third example is a bit more personal, a magical ability I have when I feel lost or unsure of myself. I close my eyes and breathe deeply. Then I imagine a swirling mist and let it fill me up, filling me with courage and strength and certainty. After a moment or so, I open my eyes, feeling ready to face whatever troubles await me. Now, these are all instances where the magic is there, but it just fades into the background. Magic is always present in our lives, but we usually ignore it until we need it. For me, I think this kind of magic is perfect. I mean, sure, it'd be pretty cool to hurl fireballs and teleport at will, but it would also be really inconvenient to have to constantly acknowledge that you're doing so. Life is complicated enough without having to worry about accidentally smiting someone with lightning because you thought of them too hard. But there's another place where subtle magic is at work. Places like libraries, places like museums. It's an energy that draws people in and holds them, a special kind of magic that takes root in the soul and won't let go. Take, for instance, the Abbey of Whispered Pages, a place from a dream. It's a library, archive, museum and temple rolled into one. The entire building shimmers with magic. The floors hum underfoot, and the very air crackles with power. If you take a moment to look around, you'll notice that everything in the abbey seems to glow faintly. The books, the scrolls, the statues, the weapons. Everything in this place is suffused with a soft inner light. In fact, the skin of things isn't what catches the light, but what remembers it. Take, for instance, the book beneath Celestria's hands. The book shimmers like the skin of a still lake at dawn, not glowing outward, but inward, as though it remembers light rather than needing it. Her palms rest gently on the cover. She doesn't press, doesn't open it. She just breathes with it. And slowly, the pages begin to turn on their own. Not fast, just one at a time. A whisper of vellum, a faint glimmer of silver-gilded edge, the rustle like wind moving through tall wheat. Each page reveals something different. Not ink, but sensation. Not pictures, but moments. The first page. A sky, the color of robin's egg blue. The scent of warmed parchment. A child's laughter echoing across a cloister garden. And the distant toll of a bell that never quite rings. Celestia smiles, though she does not know why. It feels familiar, but not in a nameable way. The page turns again. The second. Cool stone beneath bare feet. The smell of ground saffron. A song hummed in a language older than Latin, where each note is a heartbeat, and every silence holds a promise. Again a smile, but this time it carries a tear with it. Small, still, like a droplet of ink clinging to the tip of a quill. And again, a page turns, each one holding a piece of a memory she's never owned, but somehow lived. There are no stories written here, only feelings, warmth, stillness, knowing. Some pages hum, some sigh, some are cool to the touch, others give off the faint scent of rain on old wood. She understands now. This is not just a book. This is the book of shared quiet. A museum deeper than any page. A place where each person who has ever written with heart, whoever painted a truth into a margin, whoever whispered a prayer into paper, they've left traces here, not to be read, but to be felt. She turns one more page, and this one is hers. She knows at the moment it appears, not because of her name, but because of the echo. It smells of rose petal ink. It glows faintly with gold. And at the center, her dream garden is drawn, not in lines, but in light. Tiny moths shimmer at the corners. A spiral forms in the center, the shape of the seventh petal, and there, curled beneath a fig tree, is herself, eyes closed, quill in hand, sleeping peacefully. Beside an unfinished page, she brushes her fingertips over the image. Not to smudge, but to remember, a memory made, not of thought, but of presence. And as her touch lingers, the drawing dissolves into movement, like a dream blooming from sleep. Now she is standing once again in the garden, but it is different. Softer, still glowing with the gentle hush of dreamlike. The leaves stir without wind, the flowers do not sway, they listen. And in the center of the garden, there is a pedestal. Upon it rests a new page, blank, but not empty. Waiting, this is her gift now. The museum has passed through her, and now she is to begin the next, not as a scribe, but as a keeper, not to record history, but to cradle presence for those who come next. She lifts the brush from the small inkwell beside the page, and with no thought, no plan, no doubt, she begins to write. But this time, the ink flows on its own. Her hand moves, but it is carried by something older and gentler than language. Each letter forms like dew. Each mark blooms into light, and the page hums softly under her hand. She is not writing words, she is planting quiet. So yeah, maybe magic doesn't always have to be showy and flashy. Sometimes the quiet magic is the best kind of magic. So I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope you liked this style of world building. I had a lot of fun with this, so I want to do more. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more stories like this, and if you want to hear more about the Island of Mist. On that note, thank you to all my supporters, especially my You all help make stuff like this possible, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and keep an eye out for magic, especially the quiet kind. Do you want to wake up early, but find yourself hitting snooze over and over again? What if, instead of trying to wake up earlier, you just let yourself sleep longer? Good morning, sleepyheads. Welcome to the Morning Brew Podcast, the show that helps you start your day smarter, not earlier. I'm your host. Today's episode was made possible by our amazing community of supporters. If you'd like to get your name at the end of every episode, visit our support page. We have some pretty fun perks like handwritten thank you notes and exclusive chat with me and the team. Now let's get into it. Alright, so let's say you want to wake up bright and early, like at 6 a.m. Because that's when all the rich people wake up? Well, yeah. Okay, maybe that's a bad example. Regardless, you want to wake up early. So you set your alarm for 6 a.m. and try to go to bed early so you'll be well rested. But then you hit snooze. And then you hit snooze again. And then you realize you need to actually get up, and you stumble out of bed and make yourself some coffee. Does this story sound familiar? Do you feel like no matter how hard you try, waking up early is just not meant to be? Well, you're not alone. Research shows that people struggle to adopt new sleep schedules all the time, and most people aren't able to change their sleep schedule without help from a sleep specialist. But here's the thing. You don't need to be a victim of this circadian tragedy. Instead of trying to force yourself to wake up at 5 a.m., what if you try going to bed later? Sounds counterintuitive, right? How can sleeping in make you an early riser? Well, let me explain. See, we all have a biological clock that regulates when we're awake and asleep, called our circadian rhythm. This internal clock is controlled by a small region in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, which keeps our bodies aligned with the Earth's 24-hour cycle. The SCN is like a conductor leading an orchestra of hormones that tell us when it's bedtime and wake-up time. But here's where things get complicated. These hormones are influenced by external factors like light and temperature, meaning that our sleep schedules can easily get off track. When you fly across time zones, pull an all-nighter to finish an assignment, or watch one too many YouTube videos before bed, your circadian rhythm takes a hit and your body has a hard time getting back into sync. So what does this mean for your early morning goals? Well, according to sleep expert Andrew Huberman, when your circadian rhythm is misaligned, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, aka stress hormones, making it harder to fall asleep. On the other hand, If you let yourself sleep past your natural wake-up time, your body will produce more melatonin, the hormone that promotes good sleep. And what does this mean for your energy levels during the day? Well, according to Huberman, by letting yourself sleep longer, you can actually improve your quality of sleep, making it easier to wake up feeling refreshed and energized. Of course, this doesn't mean that you should sleep until noon every day, but rather that you should allow yourself to sleep until your body has had enough rest. For some people, that might be 7 a.m., and for others, it might be 8 a.m. Listen to your body and see what works best for you. Also, it is important to note that this advice applies to people who do and have a strict work schedule or other obligations that require them to wake up at a certain time. If you do have a strict schedule, then you may need to take other measures to ensure that you're getting enough sleep. For example, you could try taking a nap during your lunch break, or using the weekend to catch up on sleep. Ultimately, the key to being an early riser isn't about forcing yourself to wake up earlier, but rather improving the quality of your sleep so that you wake up naturally when it is time to rise and shine. By letting yourself sleep longer, you can help your body adjust to a new sleep schedule and wake up feeling refreshed and ready to tackle the day. If you've ever felt like your productivity is stuck in a rut, fear not. There are ways to get your groove back. According to best-selling author and productivity coach Tim Ferriss, it all starts with a good routine. That means establishing consistent habits that help you focus and get things done. This could include meditation, journaling, or even just making your bed in the morning. You want to use these small wins to build momentum towards your bigger goals. Another way to boost your productivity is by taking breaks. Yeah, we know it sounds counterintuitive, but trust us on this one. Short breaks throughout the day can actually improve your focus and creativity. Just take a few minutes to step away from your work, stretch, take a walk, or grab a coffee with a friend. Remember, it's all about balance. And finally, don't underestimate the power of taking care of your physical and mental health can have a huge impact on your productivity levels. So make sure to prioritize sleep, exercise, and a healthy diet. It might seem like a lot, but small changes can make a big difference. And hey, it's all about progress, not perfection. So don't beat yourself up if you slip up once in a while. The important thing is to keep moving forward. Thanks for sticking with us till the end of the show. If you liked this episode, we think you'll love our podcast, Messed Up Origins, where we talk about the surprising and sometimes dark stories behind everyday things like the Olympics, Monopoly, and even Thanksgiving. Check out the link in the description below and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. In our last episode, we saw how Celestria received a strange and wonderful gift for her birthday from an unknown admirer. And now it's time to find out what happens next. But first, let me remind you that today's story was inspired by one of the prompts from my patrons. So if you would like to see your ideas come to life in an animated short film as well, consider supporting the channel. Now let's get back to the story. Celestria stands at the edge of the path, hand resting on a smooth, moss-covered stone. Before her stretches the heart of the cloister garden, once carefully cultivated by generations of monks, now returned to untamed wildness. That much hasn't changed. What has is everything else. Not a single herb, flower, shrub, or tree remains where it was planted. And yet none of it seems misplaced. Not the dogwood that leans over a weathered fountain, nor the honeysuckle that twines through a crumbling statue's arm, nor the wild rose that pushes up through a cracked flagstone. All of it feels like it's been growing here forever, and Celestria feels she should know every inch of this place better than her own face. But she doesn't. Not anymore. Every turn she makes reveals some new growth she's never seen, some twist of vine or burst of bloom that seems alien to her. Even as her fingers itch to sketch it, she fights the urge, knowing that if she stops to paint, the magic will fade and the garden will snap back to its former state. She can feel it. There's only so much time, so she keeps moving, deeper and deeper into the tangled beauty, further from the scriptorium and the chapel, further from everything she knows. and then the path begins to curve and rise, leading her toward a new sound. The murmur of water. Soon the trees thin and a broad waterfall comes into view. At its base, nestled in the moss and lichen, sits a stone basin carved with twisting vines and sleepy faces. The water spills over the rim in a fine spray, catching the last rays of sun and flinging them back in 1,000 rainbows. Celestia pauses, mesmerized, as a butterfly with wings like stained glass flutters past her ear. And as she watches, another alights on the basin's edge, sipping hungrily from the overflowing stream. Then, as if sensing her gaze, it lifts its head, and she sees not just an insect, but Iris, her sister, her twin, smiling brightly, beckoning with a finger. Celestiae, hesitates, unsure if she's imagined this, or if the garden is offering one last test. But the smile doesn't fade. It doesn't waver. It only grows warmer, more insistent, urging her forward. So Celestia takes a step, then another, toward the waiting water, toward the welcoming smile, toward the arms that will hold her. She wakes up on the cool flagstones, gasping, hands scrabbling for purchase. But there's nothing to hold on to except air. She falls back and smacks the stone floor hard. Groaning, she pushes herself up, knees buckling. In the dim glow of the rising sun, she sees that the chapel is empty. The linen cloth hangs limply from the altar, devoid of moths and starlight. Even the candles have guttered out, leaving only the scent of wax and wick in their wake, and the only sound is the wind whispering through the rafters. She runs a trembling hand through her hair, trying to clear the cobwebs from her mind. Was it all a dream? The golden moth, the glowing letters, the rose garden, the waterfall. Iris, had she imagined it all? She doesn't know, but something tells her she's not meant to stay here and ponder. She needs to go somewhere, do something. And suddenly, she remembers the box. The rosewood box with the lavender ribbon and the drawing of the gate. It wasn't a dream. Not entirely. She finds the box on the floor beside her desk, right where she left it. Its presence anchoring her to reality like a lifeline. She lifts the lid and finds the scroll, still rolled tightly inside. Unfurling it, she sees the words again. The next is not to be written, but to be walked. Beneath it, the drawing of the gate, its 2 pillars and winding path of stars. Could it be? Is that what the garden was? A test to see if she would follow, would trust the path laid out before her. She thinks back to the garden, to Iris's beckoning smile, to the overwhelming urge to step into the water, to embrace the unknown, and she feels a flicker of understanding. The next is not to be written, but to be walked, not to be painted, but to be lived. Perhaps this is why the garden changed, why the moth led her here, why the scroll unrolled so eagerly, why the window was left open. Maybe they all worked together to show her this place, this box, this path. She looks back to the scroll, tracing the gate with her fingertips. The pillars feel solid beneath her touch. The path shimmers with 1,000,000 pinpricks of light. And as she gazes at it, she feels the pull again, the irresistible urge to simply walk through. She hesitates, then begins to climb through the window, careful not to break the spell by touching anything, careful not to disturb the magic. And when she slips through, she finds herself back in the familiar garden, bathed in the warm glow of afternoon sun. But she doesn't stay to bask in the beauty. She doesn't stop to sketch the roses or chase the butterflies. She walks quickly toward the end of the path, where the trees begin to gather, forming a dense, dark wall across her way. As she reaches out to touch it, a shiver runs down her spine and a new feeling blooms in her chest, a mingling of fear and excitement, apprehension and anticipation. She knows what lies beyond those trees, what awaits her at the end of this wild, untamed path. She knows because she's dreamed it before, because she's felt it deep in her bones, because it calls to her with a siren song, promising wonders and whispering threats. She knows because she must choose. Will she step into the unknown? Will she abandon the world she knows? For one she's only glimpsed, will she leave? The monastery, the scriptorium, the cloister, the only home she's ever known. Behind her, the trees are old and thick, their branches intertwine, forming a living arch overhead. Sunlight filters through the leaves, dappling the ground in emerald and gold. A celestria, mauve as the light shifts, dancing on the path ahead. And as she walks, the air grows cooler, damper, heavy, with the scent of pine and pet. The sky darkens overhead, heavy with clouds, pregnant with rain. The wind picks up, rustling the leaves, whispering secrets, pulling at her cloak, urging her on. And just as she reaches the end of the path, the trees open, revealing what lies beyond. A broad clearing, and in the center, an ancient oak, gnarled and twisted, reaching up as if to touch the sky. Beneath it, a single stone monolith, tall and proud, glowing faintly with inner light. The air crackles with energy around it, pulling, reaching, demanding. And as Celestria takes a step closer, she hears a voice, a whisper on the wind, calling her name. She pauses, hand outstretched as if to ward off the coming darkness, as if to stem the tears that threaten to spill. She has walked this path many times in her dreams, but never has it felt so real, so tangible, so full of import. And she knows now what she must do. She takes a deep breath, steels her nerves, squares her shoulders, and walks toward the monolith, toward the beckoning darkness, toward the voice that calls her name. She doesn't look back. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't fear, for she knows now who she is, what she must do, where she belongs. She is the scribe. She is the artist. She is the dreamer, and her story is only just beginning. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please consider supporting us, because your support helps us make videos like this one. Also, don't forget to stay updated. It started with the garden. She had not meant to end, had walked instead to its outer wall. Its shadow lay upon the ground like a spilled ink in the afternoon. The sky bled gold, lavender, and rose. Clouds, like brushstrokes, smudged across the zenith. When she turned to go, the gate was gone. The wall continued unbroken. Now she was enclosed by vines. Wisteria wove a purple lattice overhead. Honeysuckle spilled its perfume upon the breeze. Ivy, smooth and cool, climbed up her arms. They were alive, and she was a part of them. She walked through the tangled maze. The sun dripped down, dripping with light. When she reached the center, the garden opened before her. Not a place, not a space. The garden unfurled beneath her, not paved, not worn, but new with every step. It's made of memory, light of choices never spoken aloud, of dreams that waited until now to show their shape. Each footfall leaves no mark, but glows softly for a moment, then fades like a sigh tucked into the folds of time. Above her, the sky is not just sky. It's parchment painted deep twilight blue, scattered with stars, like flecks of guilt. They shift slightly as she walks, not turning, but listening. The stars are not far. They're not even high. They're near, like memories, like old words spoken again in quiet places. She walked for a long while, though time feels stretched, draped gently across her shoulders, like a monk's robe. The world narrows to softness, the scent of warm stone, the hush of grass parting underfoot, the rustle of starlight brushing against leaves. And then, in the distance, she sees it, the final gate. It stands between two willow trees. Their branches cascade downward like curtains spun from sleep. The gate itself is simple, carved from two slabs of stone no taller than her shoulders. No hinges, no door, just space. And in that space, a ripple of silver mist. Like breath on winter air, she paused before it. Her heart is still, not hesitant, but reverent. She knows what waits beyond the gate is not another place, not a task, not an answer, but a folding inward, a return to source, to the quiet at the center of the quiet. At the base of the gate, something glows faintly. She kneels, brushes soft moss aside, and there, beneath the ivy, is a circle of petals. 7, arranged precisely as before. Lusumea. In the center white, unmarked. But this time, the 7th petal does not shimmer. It beats, softly, steadily, like a small heart. She leaned closer, places her hand over it. The warmth rises through her fingers, into her wrist, her chest, her breath. It feels like recognition, not from the page, not from the path, but from the world itself. And from within her, the mist inside the gate thickens slightly, not obscuring, but gathering, like a book preparing to close, only to open again elsewhere. She stepped forward. No fear, no hesitation, only stillness. And as she passed through the gate, the petals dissolved behind her, not lost, planted. Tiny motes of gold and rose drift upward from the earth where they had lain. They spiral into the air, then vanish like ink dried in moonlight. Gone, but blooming. Beyond the gate, there is no path, no sky, no garden, only a vast hush, like the space between one breath and the next. And in the center of that hush, a table, small, wooden, lit from beneath by a soft blue glow. On it, a quill, a new parchment, an inkwell filled not with pigment, but with light. She sat down. For a long moment, nothing happened. No voices, no echoes, just the feel of cool wood beneath her fingertips, the taste of twilight on her tongue. Then the inkwell shimmered, the quill twitched. She lifted the quill, dipped it into the luminous ink, the touch of light on feather-scent sparks dancing up its length. She raised the quill, poised above the parchment, closed her eyes. Let the tip of the quill find its own way across the page. A line, not a word, not a letter, just a line. It traced a shape, not familiar, not contained. Wild and free, it twisted and curled. It dipped and soared. Then a second line. And suddenly she knew, this is not a story. This is a journey, a mapping, a tracing, a becoming. She opened her eyes, gazed at the line she had drawn. Her hand twitched. It wanted to erase it, to start again, from the beginning, to get it right. But she held still, watched as the second line appeared, curved and sure, a counterpart, balancing, and then a third, and with it, understanding bloomed within her. This is not about destination, not about accuracy, not about rendering the world as it is, but about rendering the world as it will be, as it wants to be. The fourth line shot skyward, touched the light on the table, breathed, and the fifth curved down, rooting toward the very center of the page. The sixth danced around the fifth, tracing, defining, completing, and the seventh, the last, echoed the first, balancing, returning, a counterpoint. She looked at the drawing. What did it mean? What did it say? There were no words, no letters, no language, but she felt its resonance like a chord struck on a harp. She knew its music, knew the story it told, about beginnings and endings, about journeys and destinations, about shadows and gardens, and the spaces between breaths. She dipped the quill in the ink once more, traced another line, not adding, not clarifying, not explaining, but defining. Her art was not to illustrate the world, not to map it, not to contain it, but to define it, to trace its edges, its curves, its depths, to become its cartographer, its chronicler, its scribe, and in doing so, to become herself. The world unfolded beneath her quill, not bound by rules, not limited by form, not confined by convention. The garden had shown her the way, the path had taught her the means. The gate had opened the possibility. Now the page awaited her story. There is a profound quiet that settles over the world when the last petal falls, when the final verse is sung, when the final choice is made. It's the quiet that follows the echo, the lingering hush after the song fades. It's a space that can be daunting, even terrifying, in the absence of external guidance, we are left with the quiet within. We may feel adrift without the familiar cadence, the comforting routine of everyday life. But within this quiet also lies a fertile ground, a canvas upon which we can paint our next masterpiece. It's a quiet that beckons us to listen to our inner compass, to trust the melody that resonates within our souls. We've come to the end of this story. If you found this video valuable, please consider supporting us. Your support helps us continue creating content that nurtures the imagination and feeds the soul. Don't forget to stay updated for more stories and adventures. Until next time, may your own story be filled with magic, wonder, and the courage to follow the whispers of your heart. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the Lux Arcana Tarot. She sits in the quiet, before a parchment, not made from vellum, nor linen, nor pressed reeds, but from presence, a page woven from stillness, a page that cannot be seen, only felt. The table beneath her palms is warm, as though someone else had just written here, and left the hush behind for her to pick up like a pen. The inkwell glows, not blinding, never that, but soft, like starlight curled in a teacup, like breath caught in a candle's throat just before sleep comes. She dips the quill, and for a moment, time curls inward. A spiral, a petal, a memory folding gently into gold. Her first stroke is not a letter. It is a curve, a circle, drawn slowly, deliberately, as though she is tracing not a shape, but the outline of silence itself. It glows as she draws, and within it, 7 tiny dots appear, each a flicker from the petals she once held. LSUMEA, and the 7 still unnamed, still waiting. She leans over the page, lets her breath brush its surface, and as it does, the dots begin to ripple, melting into words not made of language, but of knowing. She cannot read them with her eyes, but her heart listens and hears. You have become the scriptorium, not the room, not the ink, not the book, but the sacred stillness inside all of them. A single tear falls, not of sadness, but completion. It lands on the page and does not stain. Instead, it joins the ink, becomes part of the light, becomes part of the record, somewhere distant, though perhaps not so far. A bell tolls, once softly, as if struck by memory itself, and with its sound, the page lifts, not from her hand, not from the table, but into the air. It floats upward, curling gently until it vanishes in a shimmer of mist. Carried to table fades, the quill to, and the inkwell spills upward, not downward. Its light threading through the ceiling of the silence and dissolving into stars. She is alone now, but she is not empty. Inside her, the hush glows, like gold leaf kissed with breath, like petals pressed into velvet, like belonging. Her hands fold gently in her lap. Her eyes grow heavy, and as she closes them, a warmth unfurls across her shoulders. Not a blanket, a blessing, the kind given not with words, but with quiet presence, the kind received when all has been released. And now, there is nothing left to hold, nothing left to ask. No ink, no book, no scriptorium, only rest, only peace, only the soft hush of petals falling into sleep. Sleep now, gentle one. You are safe in the hush. You are held in the page. The ink remembers you, and the story will wait. As always, the major arcana holds the key to understanding the minor arcana. And in this card, we are shown the scriptorium. In other decks, you may know this card as the star, or the script, or the tome. But here in the Lux Arcana, we are shown the scriptorium, the place where stories are born. And it is important to note that the word script actually means a secret writing, something that is not meant to be seen by anyone else. It's very personal. And in this major arcana card, we see a woman seated at a table with an open book before her. There are scrolls at her feet and an inkwell and a quill beside her, and everything is bathed in the soft glow of candles. She is surrounded by the tools of creation, and yet she seems lost in thought, not writing, not reading, simply contemplating the silence between the lines. The table itself is warm, suggesting that she is not the first to sit here, that others have come before her to write their stories. In the center of the card, floating above the book, are 7 dots. They appear as both a part of the book and as though hovering independently from it. These are the Sephiroth, the attributes of the divine feminine that guide us in our understanding of the tarot. Each dot represents a different aspect of the divine feminine consciousness, and they are arranged in a pattern called the Tree of Life. From top to bottom, they are the Sephiroth of Kether, Chokmah, Bina, Gebarah, Tiphareth. When viewed together, these dots suggest a connection between the divine feminine and the material world, a reminder that the spiritual and the physical are not separate, but intertwined. Above the dots is the Hebrew letter Lain, which represents the Sephirah of Yesod. Below the dots is the Hebrew letter Shin, representing the Sephirah of Ma. Together, they form a bridge between the spiritual realm and the material world. The background of the card is filled with the soft glow of candlelight, symbolizing intuition, inspiration, and the power of the subconscious mind. It also suggests a connection to the divine, as candles were often used in ancient rituals to represent the presence of the divine. The overall effect of the card is one of contemplation, reflection, and the search for wisdom and understanding. It invites us to connect with our intuition, to listen to the messages of our subconscious, and to trust in the guidance of the divine feminine. Now, let's look at how this card shows up in readings. When the scriptorium appears in a reading, it often indicates a time for reflection and introspection. It may be a call to connect with your intuition and inner wisdom, or to listen to the messages of your subconscious mind. The card can also suggest a need for balance and harmony between the spiritual and physical aspects of your life. It reminds you to honor the divine feminine energy within you and to use it to manifest your desires. The scriptorium can also signify new beginnings and opportunities for growth and expansion. It invites you to embrace change with an open mind and heart, and to trust in the unfolding of your journey. Trust the journey. So now I invite you, my friends, to take a moment for yourself. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and allow the energy of the scriptorium to fill you. Connect with the divine feminine wisdom within you and ask yourself, what messages or guidance am I receiving at this time? What areas of my life need balance and harmony? What new beginnings or opportunities am I ready to embrace? Take a moment to listen, reflect, and trust in the guidance that comes to you. When you're ready, open your eyes and write down any insights or ideas that come to mind. This can be a powerful way to connect with your intuition and receive guidance on your journey. Remember, you hold the power within you to create your own destiny. All you need to do is listen, believe, and trust in the process. So go within, my friends, and discover the magic that awaits you. Allow the energy of the scriptorium to guide you and bring forth the wisdom that has always been yours to claim. Trust the journey and embrace the blessings that await you. Thank you all for watching and practicing with me today. If you enjoyed this meditation and would like to learn more about tarot, I invite you to join me in my online school. In my courses, I offer a deep dive into the mysteries of the tarot, exploring not just the traditional meanings of the cards, but also their deeper, more esoteric significance. We cover everything from the history and symbolism of the tarot to how to read the cards for yourself and others. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced reader, I welcome you to join me in my online school and explore the depths of the tarot together. May your journey be filled with wonder and magic. Until next time, blessed be.